Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into a pivotal moment in history.
That's right. The end of World War II.
Specifically, what brought the war in the Pacific to its conclusion. We've got quite a bit to unpack here.
Absolutely. It's a complex picture, definitely.
Hmm.
Our mission, let's say, is to really clarify those key events, the turning points that led to Japan's surrender.
Okay, sounds good. So let's maybe start by defining some key terms that people hear thrown around. First one, kamikaze. What exactly was that?
Right. Kamikaze. Well, this was a tactic the Japanese military employed, particularly late in the war,
Okay.
facing, a really tough situation, mounting losses.
Mhm.
They resorted to suicide attacks.
Suicide attacks.
Yes, mainly pilots. They would intentionally fly their planes, which were packed with explosives, directly into Allied ships.
Wow.
It was quite desperate measure. It really highlights the dire circumstances Japan was in. And it had a huge psychological impact, too, you can imagine.
Yeah, I can only imagine. That's
Yeah.
intense. Okay, another name that comes up constantly is Okinawa. Why was that battle so significant?
Ah, Okinawa. Well, that battle fought in the spring of 45 was just incredibly bloody, one of the fiercest in the Pacific.
Why there? What was special about Okinawa?
Strategic location. The Allies saw it as a potential staging ground, a base, really, for the eventual invasion of mainland Japan.
Makes sense.
But the Japanese resistance was ferocious, absolutely determined, and they used kamikaze attacks extensively there.
So more kamikazes at Okinawa.
A lot more, yes.
Uh-huh.
The casualties. Well, they were staggering on both sides.
And what was the takeaway from that for the Allies?
I think the big takeaway, the really chilling one, was the realization of just how incredibly costly a full invasion of Japan itself would be. Okinawa was like a terrifying preview, showing the lengths the Japanese military would go to.
So that potential invasion cost must have been weighing heavily, which I guess brings us to the Manhattan Project. Sounds very cloak and dagger.
It absolutely was. The Manhattan Project was this top secret U.S. government program during the war.
Its purpose.
Singular focus. Research and develop the world's first atomic bomb. It was a massive effort, pulling in, many of the brightest scientific minds of the era. All hush-hush.
Driven by a fear maybe that the other side might get there first?
Exactly. There were serious concerns, especially early on, that Nazi Germany was also working on a nuclear weapon. It felt like a race.
And the result of this secret race was the atomic bomb. How is this different from, say, the massive firebombing raids?
Oh, it was a quantum leap.
Yeah.
Totally different category of weapon. It harnessed nuclear energy, you see, to create an explosion of unbelievable power.
Unbelievable how.
I mean, orders of magnitude greater than the most powerful conventional bombs. Think of the destruction from a major bombing raid, then multiply that devastation many times over. It's hard to even fathom, really, a terrifying new reality in warfare.
And a key figure in making this reality happen was Robert J. Oppenheimer. Who was he?
Robert Oppenheimer. He was a brilliant American theoretical physicist. He played a absolutely central leadership role in the Manhattan Project.
The leader.
He directed the Los Alamos Laboratory, which is the main site for bomb design and development. Because of that pivotal role, he's often called the father of the atomic bomb. He managed the immense scientific and engineering challenges.
Okay, so Oppenheimer delivers the bomb, and then we have two city names inextricably linked to it. Hiroshima.
Hiroshima, yes.
Yeah.
On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb used in warfare on Hiroshima.
The impact.
Utter devastation, unprecedented destruction across the city, and the loss of life was just immense. Tens upon tens of thousands of civilians killed almost instantly or dying shortly after from injuries and radiation. It was horrific.
A truly horrifying event. And it didn't end there, did it? There was also Nagasaki.
That's right. Japan didn't surrender immediately after Hiroshima. So just 3 days later, on August 9th, 1945, the U.S. dropped a second atomic bomb, this time on the city of Nagasaki.
And the result was similar.
Yes, more catastrophic destruction, thousands more killed. It dramatically increased the pressure on Japan's leadership. Two such attacks in quick succession.
It must have been overwhelming. Which leads us finally to VJ Day. What does that signify?
VJ Day stands for Victory Over Japan Day. It's the day Japan publicly announced its surrender, which happened on August 15th, 1945.
So that was effectively the end of the war.
Effectively, yes. That announcement stopped the fighting. It brought World War II, this immense global conflict, finally to a close. Now, it's worth noting the formal surrender papers, the documents, were signed a bit later on September 2nd, 1945, aboard the USS Missouri. But August 15th is generally recognized as the day victory was achieved.
Okay, so let's try and tie these threads together. We have the kamikaze desperation, the brutal reality check of Okinawa, the secret development of this terrifying new weapon, and then its use on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. How did these all converge to cause Japan's surrender?
Well, if you look at the sequence, Okinawa was critical. It showed the Allies, in stark terms, the potential human cost of invading Japan's home islands. We're talking potentially millions of casualties, Allied and Japanese.
A cost they desperately wanted to avoid.
Absolutely. So that created a powerful motive to find another way to force surrender. The Manhattan Project delivered that alternative, the atomic bomb. A truly awful alternative, but an alternative nonetheless.
So Okinawa basically raised the stakes, or maybe clarified the terrible stakes, of a conventional invasion.
Precisely. It laid bare the potential bloodbath.
Hmm.
And then, into that context, you have the atomic bombings. Hiroshima and Nagasaki demonstrated a destructive capability that Japan simply couldn't defend against. It was overwhelming.
Was that the only factor in those final days?
Not entirely. It's also crucial to remember that on August 8th, between the two bombings, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and invaded Manchuria.
Ah, okay. So another major power entering the fight against them.
Exactly. So Japan was facing utter destruction from the air via the atomic bombs. The prospect of that bloody U.S.-led invasion, A&D, now a massive Soviet invasion from the mainland. The pressure from all sides was immense.
So it wasn't just the bombs, but they were perhaps the final decisive blow.
I think that's a fair way to put it. The shock of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, combined with the Soviet entry and the grim outlook painted by battles like Okinawa, finally convinced the Japanese leadership, including the emperor, that surrender was the only remaining option to avoid complete annihilation. VJ Day was the result.
It's a really sobering chain of events when you lay it all out like that. So as we wrap up, maybe some things for our listeners to ponder.
Yeah, definitely worth reflecting on.
For instance, what do you, the listener, think was the single most significant factor leading to the end of the war in the Pacific? Was it one thing or the combination?
And how much weight do you give the Battle of Okinawa? How did that horrific fight influence the thinking around using the atomic bomb?
Great. And finally, consider the consequences. What were the immediate effects of dropping the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki? And what about the long-term consequences for Japan, for the U.S., for the world, really, entering the nuclear age?
These aren't easy questions. There are no simple answers.
No, definitely not. But thinking about them helps us grasp the true gravity and complexity of how World War II finally ended.